Hello, it's Phil Thatch, and I'm here at White Oak Ball Fields in Red Bank, Tennessee to try to photograph kickball with the Canon R6 and the 100 to 500 f 4.5 to 7.1. There's a field over here, and there's another field over here, and a second field or third field way down that way. This field has the best vantage point because I can shoot into the field from up here. So, I don't know. My friend Ray shoots here as well, and he said he shoots from actually on the field. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I'm going to start from right up here, shooting down at this field where this red and black team are playing. Okay, so it turns out my buddy Ray is down there on the field I was already shooting, so we are going down there. Okay, so I shot the last bit of that game where my buddy Ray was on the field, and I was shooting from the third base area, and the catcher is in the way. You can't see the batter or the kicker, so I'm gonna have to shoot from the first base area, which means I'll be standing right on top of Ray, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, let's keep working. And you know, I'm a Nikon guy, so I'm used to turning this way means the lens will come this way, and turning that way means the lens will go that way. And that's the, you know, otherwise the camera's doing great. I just am having trouble learning to zoom backwards from the way I've been zooming for over a decade. Otherwise, really good. Okay, before I show you my best photos of the day, I want to show you some interesting things about the Canon autofocus system. Now, I had the main autofocus button set up to do regular eye tracking where the camera picks exactly what to focus on, and then I had an auxiliary, the star or asterisk focus button set up to do single point right in the middle, and I tried to use the camera's automatic focus system more so than anything else. And here you can see in this shot where I had, if I had been using the center point autofocus system, it would have landed right on this gentleman who is waiting to catch the ball, but the automatic system decided to focus on the girl who was much closer, and you can see it stayed on her. Even though he stays in the middle of the frame, the tracking system stayed on her. And if I had been using one of my Nikon cameras, for example, I would have been focusing right in the middle of the frame, and I probably would have gotten this shot. With the Nikon camera, I definitely would not have tried to do the system where the camera itself picks where to focus. And on this sequence, it cost me. You can see she's way over here on the side of the frame, and the camera is still focusing on her. Here's another one. This one's much less drastic. I thought this sequence is cool. They like to have a couple of beers while they play kickball, which I like beer quite a bit, so I'm all for it. And I think that was the pitcher who was coming to back up this player, and he's catching the ball while holding a beer. But, I mean, I think no matter what camera I was using, it probably would have picked the guy in the foreground on this particular sequence. Now this one, this is just an example of once the camera does find the right thing to focus on, how well it does. It's focusing on the runner as he's approaching first base, and it's focusing on him, and it's focusing on him, and it's focusing on him. Now this one, you can see this is a TIFF. This is the one that I will actually have in my shared pictures, and this is the raw version that's been edited before I sent it through Topaz Denoise. But look, as he continues to run closer and closer, it stays right on his eyes. Really something. Okay, here's another example. It's focusing on the girl in the foreground instead of the fellow in the background who I really want to be in focus as he catches this ball and does a nice job of it. But none of those photos are shareable because he's out of focus in every single shot. Now, once I get faster with the camera, maybe I'll be able to see that it's not catching the right person and switch my focus buttons from one to the other. Here's another one. It had him in focus at first, the guy who's catching the ball, but it switched to the girl in the foreground who's in the middle of the frame, and as he catches the ball, he's out of focus. That picture wouldn't have been very good with her in the way anyway, but it is an example of the focus system going where I don't want it to go. And here's another one. Now on this one, I hit the autofocus button, and the lady in the outfield here who the ball's not coming to, it must have caught her eye, and so it decided to focus on her. Meanwhile, the people I needed to focus on are completely out of focus, as this gentleman, they should have called that one. One of those two should have called that one, but he did make the catch, so good for him, but I did not get the shot. All right, so these are the photographs that I actually shared from this, and these first few are made from up on the hill where I did my hello clip, shooting at pretty much 500 millimeters and having to crop a little bit to get to the folks on the field. And there you can see Ray. Now Ray's working with a Nikon D850, and he just bought a brand new Tamron 70-200 f2.8 G2, the new version. Pretty cool. And by this time I'm on the third base line on that same field watching these folks play. Pretty cool shot of this fella catching the ball. I'm having trouble learning which way to zoom that camera, so because I'm so used to Nikon, and the Canon zooms in the opposite direction, so sometimes when I want to get closer I turn the thing the wrong way in a fast situation. That's a struggle. Pretty cool shot of this fella pitching the kickball and this lady kicking the kickball. Pretty cool. I started out shooting at 1/640th, but I really needed to be at about 1/1000th, so I sped up later. There's Ray and his D800 with a battery grip, and as I mentioned, the Tamron 70-200 2.8 G2. Brand new lens. He had a G1 for years, but I think he's pretty much worn it out. All right, now we're on a different field, and I'm on the first base line. Now Ray was shooting right at the doorway to the dugout, and I was shooting kind of behind first base. He had 70-200 on full frame, and I had 100-500 on full frame. That's a 300 millimeter shot. This is a pretty cool shot of her running hard to first base. And this fella is about to kick the ball. I think, seeing as how the ball knocked the cone over, it would have been a ball instead of a strike, but he decided to go ahead and kick it. This guy was the pitcher. Now I'm shooting him at 400 millimeters. I was trying to get tighter, but he jumped completely out of the frame. He's almost out of the frame right now. This guy was cool. Watch this. Look at the compression on the kickball. A friend of mine asked me if that was camera distortion, but I was shooting in mechanical shutter, so that is definitely not distortion. That's just the ball getting crushed. There's not a whole lot of pressure in these kickballs. They're pretty soft. Here's the pitcher. He was awesome. Another gentleman kicking the ball, and now I'm at 1/1000th, which is pretty much the right place to be. Minimum for sports, fast moving sports like this. These photos of the batter, you know, I shoot my daughter's softball and I have to shoot it from outside the fence and through the chain link fence, but for kickball you're allowed to shoot actually on the field. It makes it much easier, and these photos of people kicking the ball are really easy. A little bit more difficult to get somebody running to first base, but like I said, I was behind first, and I would have to just tell myself, turn the lens the right way so I could zoom out and be wider and catch shots like this and like this. This is pretty cool. You can see it was a bad throw to the first baseman, and he would have been out with a good throw, but because the throw was bad, he was safe at first. Here's a little bunt action, and that's a much harder kick there, I would say. Another pretty hard kick. And after a while we went over to, both Ray and I went over to the other field and made a few photos of this other team. There's an outfielder throwing the ball in. The batter is in white. That's the catcher in blue. There's some more amazing kickball compression. It's amazing how much those balls I mean, you'd almost want to put a couple more pounds in them, I would think. Here's a photograph. The camera missed focus a little bit on this series, but this shot was perfect, so I was happy with that shot. Pretty cool shot here. I think this is at second base. This is my favorite shot of the entire afternoon. I was shooting from the third base line, which is not really good for shooting the person who's kicking, because the hind catcher actually stands to the side of the plate and blocks your shot from third. They don't stand behind the plate. But this guy was in left field, and I really like the way this shot came out. I actually kind of like the unkempt and clover bloom laden field there in the outfield. I think that kind of adds something to it. Pretty cool shot at 1/1000th, 135 millimeters. I was happy to have zoomed in the correct direction. Here's another person. This girl called it. She said, "I got it," and so I knew which player to follow, and it made it much easier to make this shot, as well as much easier for her to avoid a collision on the field. Look at that compression on the ball. Here's a picture from another game. I like this shot because you can, from the third base area, you can see action going on both fields there. And that's the last one. Well, it came a huge downpour, and Heather and I were about to leave anyway, but we decided to leave right away when this huge rain came. And as you can see, I got completely soaking wet. And in another fail, when I was trying to set up for this clip, I either didn't plug my microphone in all the way or didn't turn it on or something. But for whatever reason, there was no audio on this clip. But I had a really good time shooting kickball for the very first time, and I enjoyed shooting with the Canon R6 and the 100-500 f4.5 to 7.1, and I'm learning the camera and learning its strengths and weaknesses and how to use them. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.